PE profile, French door on top, freezer on bottom, refrigerator with a cracked hose in the back that delivers the water to the front. This is for the model number right there, the PFSF 5N JWA, WW for white. And as you can see back in there is a coil that you can see it wraps around over here and goes out a little hole right there. It goes around the back, and that is cracked. It costs a lot of money and time for a regular fix. So I'm going to demonstrate what I think is a quick fix. So essentially what we have here is a design flaw. The hose right here, excuse the hand, you can see how it's brown from all the heat generated by all the evaporative equipment here. It hooks up right up under here. So I just simply pulled that down and detached this. Now the repairman wants to take all this cord that you saw goes in right about here, goes in and wraps around and comes out. So what I'm going to do is attempt to push this back in, take a wind or so out of it to equate to about this distance right here. You can see it's brown and it's white up here and it's cracked right there. You see that crack where it's leaking right there. And I'm just going to cut it off and reattach it because that's all this end is. That was the entire extent of the end. All right, so I'll get busy taking that off and pushing it through. And when you remove it, you'll see this is wrapped in foam with a tie and just some putty or some malleable clay right there. We'll just take that off. Yeah, remove the drawer. And now you can see the other side of that. The foam packing right here. 2 screws that hold this thing in. Basically what I'm going to do is just try to get that hose, slide it up through here, unwind it maybe one time. I think that would be enough. And then stick it right back through everything and cut it off and reattach at the bottom. Now, so far what I've done is you can see I've just started feeding from the back, just started feeding the hose right through this. So I'm not even taking the styrofoam insulation off. I'm just feeding it right on through. Most of this is already empty, and you can see the discolored part coming through right there. There, and it snapped as it came through because it was so brittle. And you can clearly see the discoloration. And what I'll do is I'll put some aluminum foil or something like that around it as a heat shield, to take care of that design flaw. There were a couple of zip ties, one here, one up there. And I just cut those off to make it easier to push the tubing through, get one loop through there. And I'm going to find it's going to be easier to cut that one too. And as any self-respecting do-it-yourself person, I've got an extra zip tie. So I will cut that big one too to make it easier and just zip it back up. The 2 smaller ones that I cut off, I don't think are going to be necessary. But I'm going to keep the 2 here with the holes. I'm going to keep those on. So erring on the side of conservancy, I took 2 winds since they were in the center, so smaller loops. So I took 2 wraps out of it, just simply because that brown part is so long. And actually, it snapped off. It was so brittle. So simple enough. Just taking it, I actually cut off some of the brittle part and I'm just feeding it right back. where it came from. So just a little tricky on the pushback. I did kind of have a little blowout right there, so you may want to just be careful. So I just had to retract it and then make sure I got it through this zip tie right here. And I didn't really need to take anything. I did take the putty off that was helping seal this right here, but didn't need to do that. So I'm just going to continue feeding that through, and I'll obviously cut off that the amount that I don't need, especially the brown decomposing part. So wouldn't you know, the light went off in the middle of this procedure. So there it is. You just actually put the 2 screws back in, fed this through. I don't even think I need the other 3 zip ties, let alone another 1. I've got a 2 loops down, but they're, again, the center loops, the smaller loops, so the water coming through the filter will be a little less cold, but for me that's perfectly fine. I don't like my water that cold anyhow, so it's not an issue for me. If it's an issue for you, you might need to get the replacement part. One reason I didn't want to do it is because up here behind, up under there, there's a couple of other connections to some other loops, as you can see, and I didn't want to have to mess with that, so I just wanted to make a very simple fix. So I put the putty back. Obviously shouldn't have taken that out, so lesson learned. You guys don't need to do that. And then I'm going to take the cap and put that over. And as far as the tube is concerned, I just need to get right down up under there, and I want all the brown stuff off, which is right about here. So I will have plenty. As I mentioned, a bunch broke off earlier, and I'll show you how brittle it is.
Can you get a flashlight?
My assistant needs her flashlight. Anyway, I'm going to cut that off, and I'm going to hook it right back up. And you'll see where that final connection is. It's that blue valve right there. So I figure I need to remove about that much, and that will get me adequately into there. And I'm going to use a nice box cutter. Well, I don't know how nice that one is, but I'm going to use a blade at any rate, so I get a pretty smooth cut. And I want to make it as 90-degree to the tube as possible. So there's the cut, more or less. Hard to see, but I've cut it, at least you can see from the shadow, as cleanly and as much as a 90-degree angle as I possibly can. Now it's just a matter of getting it back down under here, check plenty of room, and connecting it. All right, so there it is. It's a little kinked up, not kinked, but twisted because it was in that other form for so long. Put it through the little tube holder here, made the loop, and then pressed it into place here, and made sure that's a nice solid. I can't pull it out, because that link is right there. And so, as I mentioned, because of this design flaw, this is a hot, dry area here, so I want to mitigate the heat buildup around this. Hopefully I'm not trapping too much heat around it, but I wanted to put this heat shield, and it's essentially aluminum foil just kind of wrapped around that a little bit to maybe deflect some of the direct heat. I don't know if it'll work, but I know that if I don't have anything there, it will dry out. But this is about an 8-year-old refrigerator, so it did take a while for it to occur. But then again, I did have water all over the kitchen floor and under the cabinets, and that was kind of a disaster. So that's the quick fix. This video is so far about 9.5 minutes. It has taken me probably 20 minutes to do all this stuff. All right, hope it all works. I'm going to test the water out and push everything, put it all back together now. Okay, water's on and no leaks. And I ran it ran the water through a few times, get the air bubbles out, and kind of clean up the filter as well. So here's the brittle pieces right there. And you can see they just snapped. There you go, bam. It just broke right off. That's how brittle that stuff was. Okay, so my assistant wants to tell you one thing. Okay, assistant, what are we saying?
This is for kids. Don't do this by yourself. Have a parent with you because you can't do this on your own. So, kids and parents and adults can do this together.
There you go. Thank you very much. And thanks for watching. I only did this video because I was frustrated with the other videos, and